So those of you who have seen us talk before, we've talked a little bit about social proof, but what I want to go through is I just want to look at, okay, let's put ourselves in the shoes of an investor when we first walk in, right? Come in, please, or go. It's all good. Okay, cool. So the objective of an investor when you first walk in is they have to evaluate two things. They have to evaluate what is the costs and what are the benefits of investing in you, right? So within cost, we can break it down into a couple of things. They have to look at what are the risks associated with your startup and how do we go about mitigating those things, right? So within the risks, the biggest risk for them is the financial risk, right? Like they're putting money in your company. Money, if it's an angel investor, money out of their pocket. If it's a VC, it's going to be other people's money where they're putting their neck on the line, right? So a financial risk is first and foremost the biggest thing they're looking at, right? So financial risk is what is the probability that they're one, going to make the money back, and two, they're going to actually make a profit on that money, right? So within financial risk, we can then break it down further, right? There are two there. There's operational risk and reputational risk, okay? Operational risk is, okay, what is the probability that you as a team are able to execute on what you're saying you're going to execute on, right? And reputational risk is what are the risks associated with engaging in this investment on their existing portfolio. So they're the costs that an investor is having to evaluate every time somebody walks in and pitches them. On the flip side of that, they want to look at what are the benefits, right? So what is the market opportunity? What is the opportunity to work with you guys as founders? And how do they go about getting involved in the deal, right? So ultimately, your challenge walking into investor pitch is twofold. Drop the perceived risk, right? Allay that risk, mitigate it, and emphasize and highlight what are the benefits. Because when that tips in your scale, what happens is you're able to get an investment. So this is how PR helps you do that. Just waiting for a couple more giggles and then we're good. Okay, so this is a cognitive bias called the halo effect. What it means is that when we see somebody credible or when we see somebody with positive connotations around their brand, it could be a celebrity, it could be a media outlet, it could be a TV show, a television station, right? Anything that's associated with that figure or with that organization or entity, our brains subconsciously then associate those positive qualities with the thing that is being associated with it, right? So what happens is over time, media outlets, TV shows, whatever sorts of PR sources you're looking at, have been conditioned in our minds to be seen as this credible source, this legitimate source that only report on really up-and-coming startups or really up-and-coming businesses. So what happens when you're able to get PR for your company when you're trying to rate? The halo effect kicks in, right? So the investors will start to associate those positive qualities with media outlets with your company. That's a benefit because simultaneously that's going to reduce perceived risks because there's social proof associated with your company, but it's also going to overemphasize the benefits, right? Because they're only going to report on credible sources, legitimate sources, and positive opportunities, right? So if you're one of those opportunities, that's going to increase the perceived benefit. I'm going to add a caveat to that in the last slide, but that's all you need to remember here. Okay, cool. So now we have a look at, all right, say you're all over the media. So an investor's driving to work, they read about you in the AFR when they wake up. Or they see you on a TV show, on the morning breakfast show when they wake up, right? They drive to work, and you've really been pushing PR really hard. So you're in a number of different media outlets. They drive to work, and they see, sorry about this, they drive to work, and then they see you again on a BRW article, right? They see you in TechCrunch. What's that? That's repeat exposure, and that consolidates that sort of social proof, right? They go home, they hear you on the radio. Rightfully or wrongfully, what happens with this repeat exposure is we start to lend more credence to what those media outlets are saying, okay? We're not necessarily saying that's a good thing, but it's a true thing. Repeat exposure consolidates our perception of social proof. So what happens again, when you have social proof, you reduce perceived risks, and you also increase perceived benefits. Here's the other thing that happens. The more media outlets you're in, the greater your exposure. The greater your exposure, probability-wise, right, means there's an increased likelihood that somebody with money, whether it's an angel investor or whether it's a VC, is going to find out about your company who previously didn't know anything about your company. So that's a good thing for you. If you're looking to raise money and you're in a number of media outlets, what it's really beneficial to do is helps your deal flow, helps your general exposure. And if they really like what they see and they do buy into the media buzz, they're going to contact you. And we talked about why that's a good thing. It flips the script. They're the one now chasing you, and you now have a powerful frame. Okay, that's what I want to touch on there. The last caveat I want to add is this idea that PR is nothing new. Like, for as long as we can understand about like the whole startup scene, there's been TechCrunch around, there's been VentureBeat, like people have been featured in these publications and they've raised money off that. What's happened over time though, is that more evidence has come out to validate whether that's a good or a bad thing. It's a lot of companies that have raised because they're getting a lot of media buzz and because investors believe in the credibility behind that, but those companies have gone on not to do well. A good example of that is Homejoy, right? Homejoy raised a lot of money coming out of Y Combinator, raised a lot of money. They were featured all over the media outlets. TechCrunch was saying they were awesome, they're the next big thing. They were on TV, everything like that, right? So people bought into the idea that they're the next up-and-coming startup because, well, if TechCrunch are reporting on it, it must be true, right? What happened? Homejoy shut down, I think it was last year? Late last year? Yeah, after their Series B, after raising 30 mil? It's like 30 mil. It was probably, yeah, they raised in excess of $30 million and then closed down because they essentially went bankrupt. People bought into the idea of this media buzz being a good thing and it proved not to be. So the caveat here is that because this has happened to a number of different case studies now, investors are increasingly desensitized to this increased perceived credibility that's associated with media buzz. So what you have to understand now is that, okay, there has to be other ways of generating social proof, right? Media is absolutely one. There are things like celebrities, things like experts, right? If a celebrity or expert is endorsing your company, again, from a halo effect point of view, they're reducing the perceived risk and increasing the benefits. Again, whether that's right or wrong, it's true from a cognitive bias point of view. There's things like power in numbers, and there's things like customer testimonials. The main point of this slide is just to say that there is more than media, PR, to develop social proof. PR is good because it develops social proof, so you need to look at other avenues of developing that. That's pretty much it, guys. That wraps up everything, and the last thing I want to leave you with is we are M5859. We made App of the Year 2012 with Stephen Fry. We made the official apps for BBC, Hell's Kitchen, and as of next week will be Hughesy and Kate. If you have an app idea or you want any help developing your startup, contact us at info@m5859apps.com. Other than that, thank you so much for coming along. Thank you to Crown, thank you to our awesome film crew, and everybody, and IBM, of course, Kathy from IBM who's still here. That's an achievement. But everybody who stayed all the way to the end, it makes it a whole lot easier for me to actually talk to people at this time of day. So, awesome guys, I'll see you again, and have a sensational weekend.